Welcome to Voices of Inspiration, where we interview people giving of their service or of their talents, a view into their lives and their interests.
Thanks for joining us on Voices of Inspiration. We're thrilled to be joined by Maggie Procopi and Nigel Oasland of BerkoBeerFest, amongst other things, and many local people in the Dacorum area will probably know them for the music and comedy events that they put on as well, and also the other things that they're involved in, environmental issues and everything else. So many thanks for joining us today.
Pleasure.
Welcome. Well, Nigel, could you explain a little bit about your background? I mean, some people might know you as an environmental psychologist, but can you explain to us what you do?
Okay, yeah. So I did train as an environmental psychologist, which is all about studying people in buildings. And my day job is helping large organisations, occupiers and public sector to get better use of their space with more of a focus on the people and getting more out of the people, so improving performance and well-being, rather than just thinking of buildings as a cost burden and trying to save money. So that's my day job, but people may also know me obviously through Haresfoot Brewery, which I was involved in. I was a co-director there, helped set it up many years ago before it moved, and then since then we've moved on to BerkoBeerFest itself, online tasting sessions and so on.
Yeah, and you've got a book out, haven't you?
Yeah, again, in my professional career, I spent a little bit of time in COVID writing a book called Beyond the Workplace Zoo, because I firmly believe that over the last 20 years or so, we've created horrible working environments for a lot of people. Some of them are fantastic, but on the whole, they're pretty poor. Yeah. And I just wanted to say, how about if we go back to some of the psychological research, understand what people's needs are, their personal needs, their psychological needs, their physiological needs, and actually design spaces that meet those needs.
Okay. And Maggie, tell us a bit about what you do. I know you've sort of been involved in lots of different things as well, and obviously events. And things.
Well, at the moment, I organise the Workplace Trends series of conferences, which was Nigel's idea to start with, and we run about two of those a year, and one or two other ones, and that's in London, and we've got a few running overseas as well, which is great. I started off in PR, moved towards corporate sort of motivational marketing and events, and then went solo about 25 years ago, something like that.
Yeah. I see you do music and all sorts of things as well, which we're going to talk about, which I'm really looking forward to. I mean, obviously, as well as your professional career, both of you run BerkoBeerFest. I mean, Nigel, can you tell us a little bit about what it is, and then maybe Maggie, you could explain where it come from.
Oh, well, what it is basically is a local festival. We run it annually, and it did start at Haresfoot Brewery, but now it's at the Berkhamsted Cricket Club. It allows us to expand and grow. We have 48 different beers on, 18 ciders, and I try and get all the beers from within the Chilterns, within about 30 miles. So there's a big focus on local produce. And as well as the beers, on the Friday night we have comedy. And then on the Saturday, throughout the day, we invite local bands in as well. So again, just a local connection to local music, which we're both keen on.
Yeah. So where did the idea come from?
Well, we started off when Nigel was the director at Haresfoot, and I was helping with the events. And we put together, we did lots of events, comedy nights and quiz nights and music nights there. But then we thought, well, what about the beer festival? So we put one on, and we had one side, I think, with all the Haresfoot Brewery, all the Haresfoot beers, and another side with some of the guest beers, and one side then sold out very quickly, and then the other side, and I think we did 2 or 3 there.
Yeah, I did about 3 there before we went.
And then Haresfoot moved out of the town, and there was an audience. There was people there wanting a local event, so we thought, well, we'll carry on the festival, and moved it to the Civic Centre. Who were great, but we kind of did one event there and decided it probably wasn't big enough because people were overflowing and sitting on the police cars in the car park. And
Yeah.
we thought we
Yeah,
might not be too welcome back there, so we've moved to the cricket club now, and they're very accommodating. So it's great, yeah. So we ran this
in those
September.
early days, we're probably only getting about 200, 300 people there. Now we get 1,200, 1,500.
Oh, really?
No,
day.
the one at Haresfoot, we reckoned.
Oh, that was mad though, that one.
Yeah, we had about 600 people in.
Yeah.
And it was,
But then when we moved to the Civic Centre.
Civic Centre had a capacity of about 250, and we had to have security and a queue for people, and they were coming in the front door and I think then spilling out the back door, and that's where the police cars were, so it wasn't going to work there. No.
I remember coming to the Haresfoot Brewery one, and we spoke before, but the bands would be sitting amongst the vats.
Yeah.
What did you call it? What was it?
So mashed on the kettle and the fermentation vessels.
There you go. You heard it here first.
Oh, and the hot liquor tank as well.
And the hot tank. Try saying that after those. But yeah, I mean, it was really, really cool. And obviously, I've come to the sort of comedy nights and stuff you've done at the Cricket Club, and it really is fantastic. I mean, yeah, listeners, watchers, definitely, if you can, make sure you sign up to what's the URL?
It's BerkoBeerFest.com or .co.uk. Both work, yeah.
Both work. Okay, so they get you on
Yeah.
both ways. But if not, just Google it, BerkoBeerFest. Well, I mean, can you introduce the first song, Nigel? Comfortably Numb. We're going to talk about.
Right.
We're talking about beer
Yeah.
and your online beer tasting, which we're going to move on to now. But
Yeah.
so it's by Pink Floyd. So.
Yeah, it's by Pink Floyd. I'm a big fan of prog rock, and
Okay.
another thing I do is I have a show on Decorum Radio every week, 5 till 7 on Sundays, and I try and play a lot of prog because there's not a lot of it played on radio, except in the small hours of the morning, and also some indie. So that's always been my genre of music. I first saw The Wall, which is the album, back in 1981, was when they first toured with it. I saw it a couple of times that year. Since seen it a couple of times with the Roger Waters version. In fact, we took the kids to one, didn't we? So we went there as a family. So it's just been one of those albums. It came out as I was 16, leaving school, kind of thing, and it's just always resonated. People probably know Another Brick in the Wall, but Comfortably Numb is the song I think on that album. It's just got fantastic guitar riffs from Dave Gilmour. And even the night when we went to see the Roger Waters version, he said, "Oh, we've got a guest guitarist," and then we looked up at the top of the wall because they actually physically built a wall, and Dave Gilmour appeared. So it was nice to see it after, what would that be, 30, 40 years or something. Yeah.
No,
Okay.
that was amazing.
No, but it was. So, well, that was Comfortably Numb by Pink Floyd, one of Nigel's chosen tunes. I'm dying to know how this online beer tasting works. So obviously you brought one along now.
We have.
So, which I said I'm sure you're gagging for. So I'm halfway down a glass of wine.
Yeah.
So
Thirsty work, this interview, isn't it?
So how does it work?
Yeah, well, and it came again. I just before saying that, it came about through COVID and lockdown, and obviously not a lot of goods come out of that, but that was one of the small things, and we'd already been doing a few tasting sessions where I would choose 6 beers, and then we'd pair them up with food. We did a few at the brewery. Did one at the Rising Sun for charity, and Mark and Nigel down there provided some great food to pair up with the different beers. So during COVID, when we weren't doing any events, none of our comedy nights or the beer festival was postponed 3 times, I think, people were saying, what else can we do? So I'd been to a couple of online sessions with some of the bigger brewers, gave it a go. I said to Maggie, we'd probably only get a dozen people there, but if people want it, let's do it. And we had 80, 90 people turning up. And
We've done quite a few now, haven't we?
Done quite a few now. And the way it works is we select 6 beers, and the guys at Platform Wines down by the station, they provide all the beers and deliver them for free as well. We choose the beers now between us, but they've been fantastic. They started off mostly selling wine, but now they've got a really good range of beers, which I think I've helped with a little bit. And so you order the beers from them. Maggie sends a link to the Zoom meeting, and then at the Zoom meeting, I go through each beer step by step, tell people how to taste beer and what the notes are and so on, the flavours, and what foods to have with it. And when we started, I think, were they just 1.5 hours when we started? But we were like literally going through 6 beers really quick, and people just couldn't keep up. And
or they tried to keep up, and
that didn't quite work either. So in the end, we extended the time, but then we introduced the band. So now what happens is I talk through the beer, and then we get a local band, the Plank Spankers, play a couple of tracks. That is, apparently that's guitarist Plank Spankers.
Plank Spinkers on Facebook, yeah.
But they play a couple of tracks. So I talk through the beers, and then people can enjoy the beer through music, and then we come back and we do the next beer. So we all have the same 6 beers, and we go through them in the same order, and trying different foods.
So how would you do it? So
I bought one today, and this one's Arbor, which is a Bristol-based brewery. It's one of my favourite breweries, very solid, always produce good beer, mostly pale ales and IPAs. This is a New England IPA. And the good thing is their beers are all pints. So it's kind of good. Oh, you better watch it's not too fizzy. I've just walked up here. So the first thing you need to do is pour it. Now, I always recommend a glass with an open top, so you can smell it. Or, in fact, for beer tasting, a wine glass is almost better than a standard pint glass. With these kind of beers, the craft beers, you need to pour them fairly slow, but don't be frightened about going ahead. You help yourself, Maggie. And the first thing you do, we judge beer, or we taste beer with our eyes, with our nose, and with our mouth. So the first thing you do is look at it. Anyone in the audience who maybe is used to drinking traditional English beers will think, well, that's a bit cloudy, that must be off. It's not polished. But this is because it's a craft beer where it's not been clarified. They've not used isinglass to clear the beer. So it's vegan for a start, anyone who's vegan. So it'll always look a bit cloudy. New England IPAs tend to be quite cloudy. They like to be juicy and chewy and so on. So we can, just by looking at it, we can tell it's going to be quite juicy, clumpy. Dank is another word that's used, but in a good sense. And then swill it to look at the condition. So it's got a nice head on it. And then once we've done all that, quick sniff. See what the flavours are, the high notes. And on this one, because it's a New England IPA, there's lots of citrus, kind of lemongrass, exotic fruits, just all coming through on the nose, so that's nice. But you can have a go. And then we get to taste it finally.
You're in full flow.
Just one sip initially, and like wine, swing it around the mouth, move it, warming up a little bit. You want it all over your mouth because there's different taste centres. So on that, initially I got more of the citrus and so on, and then the bitterness came through later on the tongue. We don't spit in beer tasting. A, it's a waste, and B, you have actually got tasting sensation down your throat. So as it goes down, and also we're looking at mouthfeel. Is it kind of full-bodied, or is it thin, and so on. So this one is fantastic. It's delivering on the palate as well as on the nose. As I said, just that initial citrusy and hoppy flavours are just giving way to some gentle bitterness.
But it's nice because we introduce people to, or you introduce people to lots of different, different styles of beer at the beer tastings, ones that they wouldn't have normally wanted to try, some of the sours and some of the stouts.
That's a good point, Try and mix it up a bit. I mean, otherwise I'd probably just drink loads of pale ales and New England IPAs, but I also like stouts, and I quite like ones with adjuncts and little added flavours, so coffee stouts and tonka beans and vanilla.
Okay.
You get some weird ones now, you know, custard flavours, coconut, all sorts, but they're rich and velvety.
Yeah.
Sometimes they add lactose, so they're not veggie, not vegan, but they're veggie, but they add lactose to give it like a silky mouthfeel. And then, as you mentioned, also the sours we introduced, which is some people just don't get on with sours. I'm not a big fan of sours myself, but that's where you get lots of fruit and lots of punchiness. Cider drinkers probably enjoy the sours more. Really nice on a hot summer's day, very thirst quenching and so on. So yeah, so we give a range of beers. We vote on them as well when Maggie gets the voting right. Because as the evening goes on,
yeah. I try and drink water now as well as.
Oh, and then we suggest different nibbles to have along the way. So IPAs are really good with spicy foods, for example. Yeah. So if you haven't got any like spicy chicken or something equivalent veggie, have it with nachos, spicy nachos or something like that. Yeah. So we pair it with foods as well. Okay,
so we can really have like a sort of 3D, even though they're online sort of thing, is sort of beer tasting. I think it's a really, really cool idea.
Yeah, they love it. And the other thing is, I said Platform Wines deliver locally, but they do deliver nationally as well. And what we were finding is that people were joining from all over the country, and people were teaming up with people they hadn't seen for a while and using it as an excuse for an event. Or we had a Father's Day one where they sent a gift box to their dad and so on. So yeah, it's actually brought people together. Quite, and we weren't going to do it anymore after lockdown, and people have been saying, "Oh, will you be doing some more?" So we are.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. And people can sign up for that. They can for news. You must send a regular newsletter thingy out for them or something.
It's all on Facebook and join the mailing list as well, and that goes out. Letting everyone know what's happening. Yeah.
Okay. And is that still on the BerkoBeerFest.com?
Yeah.
Or .co.uk?
Yeah, whichever. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I mean, maybe we could sort of talk a little bit about the beer festival itself, the comedy that you do. I mean, Maggie, maybe you could explain, who you've had on, or.
Oh gosh, we've had so many. I think we have quite a nice format. We've got James Alderson who hosts it for us. He's great. We worked with him first at Haresfoot, and he's kind of hosts it and puts it all together for us. And he gets each time we have 3 comedians, and they do a set each, and then in between we have our beer bar, and people have that, and then beer and comedy and laughter seem to go quite well together. So yeah, I think my favourite comedians, probably. Weirdly, I was thinking about this, the female ones. We had Shappy, I can't remember, but anyway, everyone knows her Shappy. Jem Bristow and Jo Caulfield we had in September. She was great. And the last one we did, we had Angela Barnes.
Yeah,
she was great.
Really good.
I mean, a reason it's like they kind of stick out in my mind, I suppose, because I know there's many fewer female comedians. But they really, are quite good, so they're quite good,
And you've got a thing coming up with James Alderson soon, haven't you? Maybe you could want to give January. Speak straight to that camera and
January the 21st. So in those bleak days of January, James is going to do his one-man show for us, which is Bring Back the 80s. So it's everything about what you think you may remember and what you've forgotten about the 80s. So it's for people of a certain age, definitely, but it's going to be a good night.
And that's live.
And that's live at the Civic Centre,
in Berkhamsted. So definitely.
Yeah, it's going to be a nice
one. Wear your leggings and all that stuff.
Absolutely, leg warmers or something.
Absolutely.
Shoulder pads.
Maybe we can sort of go back to your next song, because you're going to talk about your radio show, Nigel, and you've got a song's choice of music, which is Carpet Crawlers by Genesis. So tell us about that.
Yeah, it's a much nicer song than it sounds, and it's a track off Lamb Lies Down on Broadway.
That's the Carpet Crawlers by Genesis, one of Nigel's chosen songs. Nigel, can you tell us about your radio show, please, on Radio Decorum?
Okay, so I do a weekly radio show for Radio Decorum. It goes out on Sundays at 5 to 7 p.m. Every Sunday, unless I'm away biking, but it's another matter. And I tend to play prog rock and indie rock. So I play the music I like from my childhood that stuck with me. And there's not many radio shows that play prog rock, I would say, and if they do, it tends to be the small hours of the morning. So it's nice to play the songs I like. I also get listeners to suggest different songs, so try different formats, and the one that seems to work is when I come up with a theme and then I ask listeners for tracks they like within the theme. So they'll start to suggest songs, and then we play them. And not a lot more to say.
Yeah, no,
really.
exactly. It's called Making Plans with Nigel.
Oh, it's called. Yeah, actually, that's a good point. It's called Making Plans with Nigel because also what I do as well as play prog is I also play local musicians' tracks and music. So in the early days, what I would do is say what gigs were coming up locally or what gigs I was going to. So we go to open mic nights together. We've already mentioned that we invite local bands into the beer festival and so on. So I try and just remind people that there's lots of good live music out there, and Decorum and Berkhamsted and surroundings. It's got some really talented musicians, really good musicians, and actually we've got some celebrities as well. Some. Don't need to mention them, but we've got some really high-class celebrity musicians.
Yeah, it's really rich. I wonder what it is about this area that sort of draws like creatives and musicians here. I mean, you're a musician as well, aren't you?
Kind of, yeah. It would be nice to think, yeah. I played for a long time the violin, but let that go while, career and family came through. But lockdown gave me a chance to pick it up again, which was really nice. So.
Yeah, and you play the piano as well?
A little bit of piano, yeah. I learned the piano as a child. Again, let that go. But then I discovered John Devine, local musician, really great musical family, and he just kind of helped me get my head around chords and inversions and stuff like that. And he kind of got me started before lockdown on back on the piano. So I've been clinking away on that as well. So that's really nice.
Really, really cool. I mean, maybe we could talk about your chosen track, which we're going to play next, which is Kate Bush, The Kick Inside.
Yeah. So I had to choose Kate Bush one, and it was difficult to choose kind of which one. But I was kind of looking through them, and I think that's the one that makes me go, because again, it was on the first album, which must have been 78. So I would have been 13, something like that, I think. And then, it kind of always speaks to me, and the piano, the lyrics are amazing, and the keyboard in it is beautiful. But also there's kind of a little bit of a backstory with it. It's, I think if you look at the lyrics, it's to do with a girl who's basically pregnant by her sibling. And I was looking at this because I was kind of thought, I think they've missed something here, And I was looking on Wikipedia and everything to see, and it was the wiki and even Paddy Bush, who I think co-wrote it, are kind of saying, well, it's a suicide note from the girl to her brother. But bearing in mind that the hit track from that album was Wuthering Heights, one of the, and again, I can't find it on the internet, but when I studied Wuthering Heights, there was this theory that Cathy and Heathcliff were brother and sister.
That's right.
Yeah, you've heard it as well. So whenever I mention it to people, they say no. So again, I think even though that's not mentioned, Paddy Bush doesn't mention that, but I think that must have been something to do with it as well. So it's kind of
We got to see her as well, didn't we?
That was great.
Having waited about 40 years. She toured a few years ago. That was fantastic.
Yeah, that was amazing voice.
It was chosen by Maggie, and obviously part of BerkoBeerFest, we've spoken about the music that you include, and obviously lots of local bands that you put on. Can you tell us a bit about it?
Yeah, well, we're really grateful that we're able to. There's such a rich area of local musicians and bands, and Robin Snow from Dodo Bones very, very kindly. I did it one year when we were at Haresford. I organised the bands myself, and it was a completely complete nightmare. It's like herding cats. So Robin Snow very kindly said she'd take that on. So she gathers them together and organises them and hosts it on stage, which is brilliant. So thank you, Robin. But yeah, we have. It's nice. The Beer Fest we open at 12 o'clock till 2 o'clock. It's quiet. Just we have camera people there coming, dads with babies in prams. 2 o'clock, a kind of a low key, but not low key, but a quieter band comes on, and then it gets acoustics, and then it kind of progressively gets a little bit more raucous, and then we end with a quieter one towards the end as well. So I think this year we had 8 bands, one every hour, so it's great. Yeah,
it's really great.
Really lovely.
The richness and the diversity of the music, and you say it's local stuff. It's just phenomenal.
Yeah,
phenomenal.
No, it's brilliant. And also we have such a great, and must give a name check, Mark Edgar, who does our sound and our lights pretty much all by himself. We just couldn't do it without him as well. So yeah,
nice.
two very key people there for the beer festival.
Yeah. Plus all the volunteers.
And the volunteers, yeah.
And we're always after more volunteers.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, exactly.
Free beer.
Oh, free beer. There
Pint.
you go. Well, then that's definitely worth it, isn't it? So, I mean, we're going to end soon, but I just want to talk about, you're obviously both passionate about the environment. I mean, obviously I am as well with the biophilic design and everything with sort of environmental psychology, and you obviously know you're really passionate about the environment. Can you tell us maybe a little bit about what's going on locally and what you're seeing, or how people could get involved?
Yeah. I don't know. There's lots of things going on in the town. There's Transition Town, Berkhamsted, and quite a few groups. I think the tricky bit is to kind of. I think a lot of people are in all the groups, but they all kind of know each other, and we've had a few wins, I think, in the last few years, where the town council are now very green based, which is a real plus. And we're really lucky where we live, because we're bordered on one side in Berkhamsted by Ashridge and the National Trust, so that, touch wood, isn't ever going to be touched. The other side of the town is facing development. Obviously, we do need houses for people, but we need to just bear in mind to preserve the wildlife as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, thanks very much. We're going to end on your last song. Before we get there, I mean, can you just give another check about where can people find out about you?
Facebook, Instagram.
Yeah, www.BerkoBeerFest.com.
Lovely, great. Well, and then actually I've got one more question before we go. If you were going to give people one piece of advice to set up something community-based locally, what would it be?
Oh, wow. I think have a strong vision about what you want to do, what you want to achieve, and then find people to help you.
Yeah.
What would you say?
I would say gather your people together, audience-wise. Find people to help you do it, but also make sure you've gathered people through Facebook and Instagram into an audience and ask them what they want, and then give it to them. Yeah.
That's good. And Breakfast and Tiffany's?
Yeah, just a lovely song. I think it was 1995. I think one hit wonder, but again speaks to me. Such a lovely film. Audrey Hepburn, so beautiful, and the lyrics are gorgeous. And our friends, the Elfin Howlers, local band, covered it beautifully. And I just love it when they play. I've tried to find it online, but I couldn't. So Deep Blue Something have it. They get it instead.